Hello and welcome back to another edition of Semi-Informed Football Podcast. We're doing the fan injection. And now I have a really interesting topic today. So we're going to talk Milan and the Serie A and how Milan actually, how their season is going. Now I have my good friend Rob on the show today. Rob, is this a hot topic right now?
It's a very hot topic. It's a topic of mixed emotions right now. Yeah, the love for the club, the disparity for what's happening right now, and somewhat of, I don't want to use the word disgust, but it's very upsetting on what's happened to this club that used to be a European powerhouse that was feared everywhere they went, now to this mediocre club that just changes coaches.
That changes coaches all the time. So we're going to get into that, but I was just going to point out 7 Champions Leagues, 19 Serie A titles, and always very competitive. So for me, for me, I got introduced to club soccer in, say, the mid to late 90s. Before that, I was, those typical soccer fans that are every 4 years or maybe even a little bit every 2 years, all of a sudden they know everything to do with the sport. That was kind of me before, but I got introduced to club soccer in the, say, mid 90s. And at the time, Serie A was the dominant league. So while the topic of AC Milan was very poignant to me, is because that was a team that was really hot at the time when I got introduced. Being a Serbian background, Serbian-German background, I was a big fan of Vance Vicevic, who ended up going from Red Star Belgrade to AC Milan. I know he had a lot of kind of injuries to kind of launch that, but he was a brilliant player kind of joining the team. So that Milan squad, when I started watching, Milan was on top. Juventus started improving and they were going on top. There was really no kind of Inter or even Lazio out there. They were really kind of minnows. And I mentioned that on the podcast, I think, with Ross when we talked about Roma. But, Milan was something that was respected, Europe-wide.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, go on.
Oh, they were. I mean, you had players like Savicevic who, in his prime scored probably some of the most iconic goals outside of Van Basten's beautiful goals in that era.
Yes.
Right. He was a great player, well-rounded. He was a genius. He was a football genius.
Yeah. Right. Perfect. So now what we have is Milan. I find that, okay, so that was like the heyday, even going into the 2000s, Maldini, going the heyday of the sport. So now we have a team whose ownership has changed. So back in 2022, Elliott Management Club, they sold it out to Redbird Capital Partners.
Yeah.
And they own, I have added stats here, 99.93% of the club, with the other 0.07 going to, I guess, just Italian investors, just local investors. So it's an American management firm. And I think I remember reading this before, is that they're not taking that, we're going to go all out in Serie A. They're going to take a little bit more of a budgeted, and I think, I guess, a responsible approach to football, where they're a team that's going to develop and sell as well as purchase, not just kind of just wave the checkbook around, which is different than the team I kind of grew up with. So, what is your input on, I guess, about the ownership? Like, what do you feel?
Well, I want to piggyback off of what you just said about investing and developing players rather than going all out and buying 4 or 5 star players out in the market that are available now. And Milan is showing no interest in them.
Right.
This is where the anger comes into play as a fan. I've been a fan, God, since I could remember. And there is no 1 or 2 players right now that jump out outside of Leao and Pulisic.
Yeah.
That I can say,
we're going to build a team or
developing and bringing onto the market, or, that they could turn around for a profit. Bringing in players like Emerson Royale. Yeah. Who, in my opinion, was an absolute flop. And you keep a player who has legged this team like Calabria on the bench, an Italian born, came up through the youth squad, and you put him aside for a mediocre player. You have players like Musa, who, in my opinion, and again, I might upset some Milan fans, but those that understand what I'm talking about, they'll get it. A player like Musa has no place in a top 5 or top 4 European team. He just doesn't have the quality. But this this organization seems to believe that he does. I don't see it at all. There are far better players out there. Right now, Milan is going to miss the boat for Samuel Ricci, top midfielder in Torino, who's expressed his desire to come to Milan, but they're not entertaining it. They're entertaining a striker in the German league rather than fortifying the midfield. So what I'm seeing now is our biggest problem is we're getting players that don't help our cause, right? And they're not even big names that would fill the seats, right? If we brought in, let's say, a player, let's say we brought in Messi, right?
Yeah.
Messi, it's a name everybody knows. And, that's one player that could temporarily help the team. But you bring in a striker like Morata, Spanish star, played all over Europe, won Champions Leagues. He's won the World Cup. He's won the Euro Cup. He's won it all. We have nobody to give him the ball.
Yeah.
We don't have that quarterback. Once we lost Pirlo, we didn't bring up from the youth squad or thought it was important enough to bring in a quarterback that can feed the ball. They've changed the style of the game to, I don't know. Yeah. It's painful to watch.
Okay, so I'm going to actually build on that because that's something I had in the notes right now. So you're listening to this, you're not going to see me. So I'm actually putting air quotes around lost Pirlo.
Yeah.
How is that as kind of like, this is how again, maybe this is just the common understanding of what Pirlo wanted a longer contract, and Milan was following sort of what I guess, a lot of the top clubs do. Real Madrid does that as well. Because as soon as you hit the 30-year mark, you're getting one year and that's it. Like, you're not getting these multi-year. He believed he needed a little bit more and he felt a little bit disrespected. So, they let him walk. He went to Juventus and he had a lot of phenomenal seasons left. How does that irk you? Are you on the side that I can't believe we let this happen? Because right now he has no connection back to the club. Like, this is a club legend, probably one of my favorite players of all time. And like, it was almost like a cast aside. Like, what do you feel about that?
It's heartbreaking and it's upsetting. A player like Pirlo deserved the respect to get more than a 1-year contract extension. What he's done for the club, the class, right? The titles that he's brought to this club single-handedly, yes. Right? The team was pretty much built around him, and he was, let's call him the Patrick Mahomes of AC Milan back in the day. He was distributing the ball left, right, and center. He didn't even have to know. He wouldn't even look at you, but he knew you were there, right? A player like Pirlo, you can't just let him go for free, and especially to a club, your arch rival. You're right, for free. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought they would have put up a bigger fight to keep him.
Yeah,
but when Pirlo left was in 2011. That was their pivotal year when a lot of the players retired. Gattuso, Ibrahimovic left. Maldini retired. Nesta retired. Inzaghi retired. We had 5 or 6 key players that they had no plan to bring up through the youth squad or find in the market to replace players like that. But Pirlo specifically, yeah, I mean, it broke my heart. Right?
Yeah.
And with Juve, watching him score those incredible free kicks and, just jaw-dropping playmaker with the team that, oh my God, most, if not all Milan fans can't stand to watch is Juve and Inter. It was painful.
So again, not only with Milan, but also with the Azzurri, with the Italian national team, just being like a stalwart, amazing. So I'm just going to mention another club legend because my son plays soccer. My son plays soccer with Rob's son. My son is mostly a defender, and what he can't get enough of on YouTube Shorts or just YouTube videos is Maldini and Maldini's play. Now, he had a very long career with both Milan and the Azzurri. But he was sort of kind of unceremoniously actually cast aside when he was in sort of management right now. Is that kind of sour grapes right now, or even on top of it, talk about that, and also the impact that Maldini had as a defender, like in his era that he played.
Okay, we'll start with the impact Maldini had, yes, as a player and as a leader, and what we like to say, la bandiera of Milan. He was the flag of Milan.
Yeah.
Another player which just oozed class and respect, right? He was never the individual who would come in for a dirty tackle. he was one of the most feared defenders in the world. Players like Ronaldo Nazario, Maradona back in his day, Messi. You talk to some players that really revolutionized the sport, says that they were afraid when they found out that they were on the right side of the field playing up against a guy like Paolo Maldini, right? He led his team. He calmed them down. He boosted their morale. He was that figure on the field that could change the game and change the emotional state of a game in a second.
Right.
Like hit. Oh my God. There's not enough words or time today to even talk about Paolo Maldini. I loved him as a player. He's one of the main reasons why I really started following AC Milan when I was younger.
Yeah.
Seeing this 18-year-old kid, he came in at 16, but at 18 is when, I really started following him, and he was the only guy you heard of, right? Baresi, for a player like Baresi to put Maldini on a pedestal, it's like, oh crap, this is coming from Captain Italia himself, Mr. Baresi. Yeah. He was probably still is classified as the best left back in the world, next to, I would say, Roberto Carlos.
Yeah. Everybody knows that iconic goal, but I'd put him ahead of that just as like a defensive presence.
Yeah. Funny fact about Maldini, he started off his playing career as a striker.
Yeah. He played every position.
Yeah.
Played every mid, it did, like even professionally. But no, that's where he made his bread and butter as that back.
Yeah. But the competition was just too great up front. But it was a blessing that he moved in the back for Italy, for Milan. Hands down, best defender, one of the best defenders in the world, but the best left back definitely in the world. Being part of the club now as the sporting director, he had a management role. The club and the team looked up to him.
Right.
Again, he brought that same morale boost as he did as a player. Now he brought it to the team in management, in the dressing room, on the field, on the training ground. You just saw the respect of the players approaching him, hugging him, high-fiving him before and after a game, even before training, right? It's like, look who's here. We have Paolo Maldini right here. And when I heard, actually, I got a notification on my phone, and I walked out of a meeting at work, to be honest with you, so I'm for it. It broke my heart. I'm like, what's going on here? What is happening with this club? All right, Pirlo as a player, that's one thing. You want to bring on some mediocre players and bring them up, try and market them in a different way. That's one thing. But you fire Paolo Maldini.
Yes.
The one club man, right? 23, 25 years with the club. Could have gone anywhere he wanted in the world, stayed with the club, even after his playing days, became part of the La Società. And for them to do that was, it was kind of making me think, like, is this the team I really want to back now? Because this isn't the Milan that I remember. And it
was like a slap in the face of their history,
to say the least. Yeah.
Right?
And to bring in a gentleman like Ibrahimovic to take his place is offensive.
Yeah.
It's offensive, especially more so now, because you see what he's doing to the club, right? Mm-hmm. He's known as the guy who's fake it till you make it right now, right?
Yeah.
There's only so much you can get by on your attitude and this, I'm a godlike player. Yeah, you were a great player, but management level, he has no place.
Yeah.
And it's as clear as day with the players that they're bringing in, like Fofana, who's a mediocre player. He was good in his day, but, again, a mediocre signing. Musa, and you also have Emerson Royale. Yeah. I'm going to keep picking on Emerson Royale.
I know you've mentioned him a few times on this.
Yeah. It's, he is probably one of the most painful players to watch play. I would have rather seen Calabria on the field, or you have very young talents coming up in the ranks that have been sitting on the bench for Milan for a while, like Zeroli's been on the bench. Another upsetting factor for me is, which I just read yesterday, Francesco Camarda is going to be put on loan to Monza.
Maybe that's a development thing. It's like, even if it's
over who? Over Abraham?
Yeah.
So, right? Like, I love the club and I don't want to trash talk the club, but there's nothing good to say right now.
Well, you know what? I think so. I had a few people on the show before. I had Ross talk about Roma, and he said the same thing. He gets it's challenging being a Roma fan right now, especially how they've been acting lately. I had Luigi, and he was talking about Juventus, and even he said, he goes, "We're far from the heyday, right?" So, if one thing, like I said, is that why I enjoy Serie A and why I've been kind of driven to this league is I find that it's not kind of dominated by one team. Like, for instance, like I'm a big Bundesliga fan too, and Bayern, I don't know, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be the strongest team in the league. It's just economics at that point. But I found that if there's any year to be a Serie A fan, it's this year. The parity is insane. Now, just bringing that into it, I'm just going to say, so Milan won the Supercoppa earlier this year. They're still in the Coppa. I think they're playing. It's the quarterfinals or the semifinals against Roma coming up. They're doing that, and right now in the league, I think they're in 7th spot, so they're right out of a Europe spot. However, not far back. Like, I think they have a game in hand, so they're not out of the picture right now. Like, they can if they start playing a little bit smart. But and I know we're kind of talking about this backwards with the podcast, but like, what do you feel about, again? And we were talking about champions. So they got into champions. They're going into the playoff, right? But what would you say, champions, Serie A, the cup games? What would you say about Milan's season this far? Like sum it up in a few words.
Milan's season has been disappointing. They've dropped many points that they should have taken easily. They've always been coming from behind on their wins. So if you look at the statistics from this year, they were down 1-0 many times in the year, and they bounced back in the second half to a 2-1 or a 3-1 victory.
Yeah.
With respects to the Coppa Italia, I mean, we're going up against, a badly bruised team, Roma, just, the same way we are. It should be interesting to watch. Would I predict a victor there? It's tough to say. Roma is bouncing back, and they do have a pep in their step. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for Milan right now.
Yeah. So whereas Roma did make that coach, that managerial change, that coaching change, we see Conceição now with Milan. You're not a fan. You don't think he's the right?
I'm not a fan because you can't keep blaming the coach.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get to that in a sec. But Champions League, I mean, we just drew Feyenoord, which on paper Milan should take no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Again, on paper. What I'm seeing, especially against the points that we dropped and the loss against Dinamo Zagreb the other day, it was surprising. They came out guns blazing, and you had a player, again, Musa, who just got a double yellow, 2 useless fouls that shouldn't have happened, and it cost the team. All right, we went down 1-0. Captain America Pulisic, which I love, probably the best player on Milan right now, next to.
That was a swipe from Chelsea, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a huge bargain. Now at first I was, of all the players in Europe, we had to grab an American. But
yeah,
he's fantastic. He doesn't stop running.
So I've known him for quite a bit because I'm a Dortmund fan through and through, and just seeing him as a young player on Dortmund, I knew the quality was there. Right. Going over to Chelsea, just didn't have the playing time, but I know his pedigree. His father was a coach, so he breathed, ate soccer or football in the United States. So if anything, like, I don't know, does he go down as the best American of all time? Like, I think that's very debatable. And I don't know, I would probably be on the side of saying yes.
Right now, I would agree with you. I would say yes, he is. He's definitely the best American to play in Europe ever.
Yeah.
And it shows when he's on the field. He is one player, probably the only player on Milan that I can say gives 110% every game.
Right.
Whether the team is playing poorly, he is running left, right, center, or south. He doesn't stop. He reminds me of a Gattuso, but with your finesse.
Yeah, the ball. All right. I get that. You kind of mentioned it before, and sort of the timely of this podcast is and I'm going to try pronouncing this. Is it Derby della Madonnina? Correct. So this is so I had a super fan listener, Larry, tell me my Italian could use a little bit of work. Again, I'm not Italian background, just trying my best. So he's trying to get that to happen. Not to Larry. But would you say Inter is the biggest rivalry of Milan, or is it a team like Juve?
Inter is the biggest rivalry.
Yeah.
Right. The Derby della Madonnina is probably the biggest in Italy.
Yeah.
More so than your Juve Torino and your Genoa Bologna. There's just a genuine hate between the two teams.
So it is a hate. It's not a respect. It's a hate.
No, there's a big hate between the two, and we're going back to, the days that I can remember where Materazzi was a young pup. And the iconic photo of when we're out Rui Costa with the feathers, and fans hate each other, the players hate each other. More so now, I think, for Milan because of the cheap move from Çalhanoğlu, who just decided to pick up and go for an extra $2 million from Milan. But I mean, you can't take away from Inter being a strong team, right?
Yeah.
They've always been up there. It's always been your AC, your Inter, and your Juve up top, the top end. And I hate playing Inter because it's the game that gives me the most anxiety.
Right. And it's the same. It's like you want the 3 points. You don't want the 0 points coming out of it, but losing the 3 points to Inter, that's a little bit much.
Yeah. I agree. It hurts. That's a cut that goes pretty deep.
Yeah. And it's fair. Like, it seems like this year you do have the respect for them. Like, I've said this on podcasts previous where I honestly think they have one of the strongest midfields in all of Europe, just consistently and just like from left to right, like just a very, very strong team. So I really do think that they're going to kind of better their current position and maybe even win the league again this year. But I just think they're super strong. And even at the striker position, love him or hate him, Lautaro is there to kind of pop it in.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah. I don't know. Problem. I'm not saying I'm not an Interista at all, but I think that you got to respect where it's due. Now, I don't. So I asked this question to a lot of the other Serie A fans, and this is a very interesting one. If there was another player in all of Serie A right now that you could just lift and shift and put him on your team, it doesn't. Maybe not in Serie A. Maybe you can expand to Europe, but I put it into Serie A just to make it a little bit easier. What player would you lift and shift and put him on your team? Like, would it be like a position player, like you said, maybe the midfield? Like, I don't know the striker positions needed, or maybe he needs a bolster up the defense. Like, is there anybody you can think of?
I would say Nicola Barella.
Yep. You're the second one. My Juve guys, Luigi said Barella as well.
Yeah. He is your ideal midfielder.
Yeah.
He is well-rounded in attack. He's well-rounded in defense, and he can distribute the ball like no other Italian midfielder right now that we have in Serie A or even abroad. He's very physical, and the kid can score. The kid can play.
Yeah.
The kid can play. He would bolster a player like Morata, because the problem we have right now, Reinders, I find, is a little too selfish with the ball. Is he a great midfielder? He's a decent midfielder. Right. But what Milan is missing is that individual that can distribute the ball to a player like a Morata and a mediocre Abraham, outside of the 18 or even inside of the 18. That vision's not there. Right. A lot of Milan's games lately, they've been putting me to sleep. They pass the ball around that midfield, they reach the 18, and then they pass it back. And most times it goes all the way back to Magnan. It's like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
Right? We're missing that one player that, has the courage and has that vision to break through the 1, 2, maybe even 3 defenders and just distribute that ball to the attackers.
Yeah. So another question that I had, and I think you answered this already when I said, because the best player in Milan's current squad, and you said Christian Pulisic.
Yeah.
You're comfortably saying that, right? Yeah. If you were to sell somebody that was underrated on the current squad right now, and you said this guy's a lot better than people make him out to be, or maybe he is more of a, say, like more of a force in Europe, whereas he doesn't get talks with like some of the bigger players. Like, who would you say that is?
An underrated player on Milan right now.
Yeah. Can I give you my take on who I think is probably one of the best at his position? It's Mike Maignan. Like, I think he is a world-class goalie. I think I've seen him where he's done some real, he has those brain farts where I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but I think overall, to fill in from Donnarumma, I think they really got a great goalkeeper there.
Yeah, that was a great signing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's another move that upset me was Donnarumma leaving for a few extra bucks. But you know what? This was a blessing in disguise. Magnan has a different demeanor
Yeah.
than Donnarumma. I find him more of a leader. You know, you see him in the tunnel before games, coming out through halftime. He's just screaming, you know, let's go, Milan, let's go.
It's good.
You know,
We need that. We need that.
yeah, great player. The most underrated, I would say, I'm going to go again with Pulisic.
Yeah.
Right.
You get on a both scale. Yeah, exactly. That's how we framed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think he's the best player there. The rest of the world might not think that he is the best player on Milan, but I think he would be a game changer at any club that he would go to.
Right.
Right. And if the offer came, I would refuse it. I mean, Pulisic is the type of player you have to keep, especially with seasons that he's been having when he's been getting the starting nod. You can't take that away from him. He's a great kid. He's very physical. He could score. I think he's second right now second to Reinders, leading goal scorer for Milan. But yeah, I mean, I'm confident to say that you could put him anywhere, and his work ethic will shine in any team he goes to.
Amazing. You know what? We're going to kind of wrap things up right now. But what I ask is a prediction. So I'm going to ask you for a Champions League prediction. I'm going to ask you for a Serie A where they finish prediction. So Champions League, how far do you think they make it? It's a platform though. You think it's past the next round? You think Feyenoord is doable? They can get past that round. How much further can they make it?
Well, I mean, the playoff bracket is extremely tough. I mean, I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but we got a lucky draw with Feyenoord.
Yeah.
You had Real Madrid, you had Juve in there, you had Atalanta, you had some top teams in Europe in the draw. We should get by Feyenoord, and depending on where we land next, I can't see us getting out of the group stage.
Right.
I just don't see it. We don't have the firepower. We don't have that Barella, let's say, in midfield, or another Pulisic to play on the left.
Yeah.
All right.
But you know what? Like, there's a lot of clubs that were really challenged this Champions League, like Man City making it in the skin of their teeth, Real Madrid, Bayern, not really kind of taking the world by storm. So yeah, Liverpool almost had the perfect qualifying campaign, dropping one point. They look great, but I don't know. I'm at this point where it's like I'm not gonna count out anybody. I'm like, I still like to see it's still wide open.
See, for me, what's leading me to say that, Marco, is the current coach.
Yeah.
It's not Cristal.
Yeah.
Right. Was it a good idea bringing him in? Absolutely not. Was it a good idea bringing in Fonseca? That was even worse. I think getting rid of Pioli was a huge mistake. The team needed to be restructured, not the coach. He just came off winning the Scudetto, and you let him go the next year.
Right.
For reasons beyond my comprehension. You know, rather than, what upsets me is that the club doesn't take the time to look at the root problem, which is the players, right? The players, they've been spoiled. They won the Scudetto, they came off a high, and they just fell flat, right? Yeah. There's no fire, there's no love anymore for the black and red.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, Champions League, anything could happen, Marco.
Right.
During this 8-game session for the qualifying, hey, you would beat Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's quite possible. How about Serie A? Are they a top 14? They sneak into Europe somehow?
Top 4, no. I could see them probably sneaking into, if we end up getting the 5th spot for Champions League, they might finish 5th this year.
Yeah.
Again, it all depends on the team. It all depends on what they have. Right now, the way they're playing, I just don't see it. We barely squeaked by Parma. Right. That was a painful one to watch. We went down, we were losing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You know what? We're going to wrap things up right now. We had an amazing conversation on Milan. Very, very timely. just on the eve of the derby. What, I've asked this from Luigi, the Juve super fan too. He goes, if you had any closing thoughts to the Milanista out there, to the Milan fan, what would the thought be? Like, it could be something encouraging, or it could be something, I don't know. Like, what would that be?
Well, the thought would be, remember who we are. Remember who we can, what we were and what we still can be. Right? You can't put aside what this club has accomplished in the past.
Right.
Everyone should be extremely proud to wear the black and red. The 7 Champions League on our sleeve.
Yes.
We're the leading Champions League holder in Italy. Second only to Real Madrid, who has like 200 now.
But they're going on that. Never count that team out. Never count them out.
No, never. But just stay positive. I know I've said some negative things, but the positive takeaway is that we are Milan.
Yeah.
A club like this can never fail, and I don't think the world will let it fail.
Yeah. I think it's a global club, club that's recognized. In many countries. Like, I know China has a very big interest in the European game, and I think Milan definitely resonates over there. So yeah, that's what it is. I know. Keep your head up high. So we're going to close things out right now. I want to say, Rob, thank you so much for contributing to this. I hope I'm gonna throw this out there. It goes, I hope this is an invite for a follow-up episode, maybe at the end of the season. Maybe we talk about something different, but we'd really love to follow up and catch up on Milan.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Marco.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks to everybody who's listening.